We have observed in some of our medtech projects over the past 4 or 5 years that there are always similar types of problems. Developments in medtech take a lot of time. We also see that market adoption is partly low or sometimes even slow. A third problem that we see in medtech is that there tends to be often too little value add, which then leads forth to the lengthy approval process, which sometimes is suboptimal. We think the root causes for these 4 problems is a generic understanding of the unmet needs of the different stakeholders. We start by figuring out and hypothesizing what is the job that they actually have to get done. To get out of this generic understanding, often very solution-oriented understanding as well, we define a couple of jobs that the different stakeholders have. So that is what they want to achieve. And our innovations should be tailored to actually help with those problems. Understanding the job of your stakeholder is key to move beyond a just purely generic understanding of your stakeholder. And here we have a process in 3 steps. It always starts with need metrics. It basically means gathering what are the metrics by which your stakeholders measure success. So it's completely independent of whatever solution or service that you provide. Next, second step, we go into quantitative validation. We call these value maps. What they reveal is where exactly in the market are the pain points. Where in a big market are really those needs which are important but not fulfilled. It's a quantitative step in the process. And in the very end, you actually are able now to define stakeholder-focused requirements that actually address an important need, and that then fits into the product management. Point of care testing is doctors have to diagnose a patient. Now they have 2 options. They can, on the one hand, send these samples to a lab, or they can buy a device, a point of care testing device, and use that in the practice. We start always with the framing. Framing means who are the stakeholders. Then we create inside out as a hypothesis what we call a needs hierarchy. In the center of the hierarchy, you have a focus job, which in this case is to diagnose patients and recommend treatment. On a higher level, there are the higher level jobs which answer more bigger why questions, like, for example, a job to run my practice. And then we go 1 level down, where we are closer to what you might know as a customer journey, but it's a job journey. And then we go with this into exploration, into interviews where we explore each of the steps. Jobs to be done, in our conviction, does not stop at the job level. What we need to get out of these interviews are what we call metrics, need metrics. A need metrics is an expectation, a criteria that a user or stakeholder has when trying to get the job done. So the concept of metrics is really important for moving from this, as we mentioned, generic understanding or rather fuzzy understanding to a very concrete understanding. So as Beat mentioned, these metrics, we draw them out in the interviews, but now you have a list, for example, here of 90 metrics. And what do you do with a list of 90 metrics? That's interesting in itself, yes, but you don't know the priority in a given market. So that is where quant comes in. So when we go into a quant, we let physicians and nurses here rate each of these need metrics in terms of importance and satisfaction. Each of these dots is one of those. So, and the x-axis on the bottom, so from left to right, shows you the importance. Up and down, or the y-axis, is how fulfilled are, for example, physicians or nurses with that metric, with the solutions that they currently use. So that's what you're seeing here. Each of these dots is one of those metrics rated by importance and fulfillment or satisfaction by a specific target group. Now you can actually go and understand at a very granular level what different stakeholders are telling. So there are shared pain points which the doctor as well as the nurse have. And there is also, for example, very unique pain points. So here you see, you get a very granular, a very clear picture of what is important to your customers or stakeholders and what is really relevant.
In the case at hand, it really helped to deliver a very clear direction in the development very early on. They knew which topics they had to focus on, which pain points they had to focus on, which meant fewer iterations, and very tailored value proposition that led to much faster adoption because it actually talks about the problems that they have and experience in their day-to-day life. So to wrap up, what does stakeholder-focused innovation bring? If you really go into a granular level of understanding the needs at the very beginning of the process, you get a much faster development because you actually have a deep understanding of clinical pathways and just your stakeholder needs, so you know exactly where to focus. You get higher market adoption because you create concepts that really solve a pain point that is there in the whole market. You add value where it counts. So again, same thing for the value map. You know exactly where to focus on first. And on the very last step, so the smoother approval processes, I mentioned this just before, creating this clear link between user research or usability research and the requirement, that speeds up the overall process.